Hi everyone. Now, we are getting to the second part of Session 3, the need for nature-based solutions in managing climate and disaster risk. In this part, we will take a closer look at the remaining part of green infrastructure of coastal zone management, sustainable land management, integrated water resource management, and integrated fire management. Moving on to the coastal area. NbS seeks to use local natural elements and processes in coastal ecosystems, as much as possible, to harness the forces of nature for the benefit of society. Rehabilitating coastal habitats is essential for bolstering resilience against climate change and disasters. Mangroves, coral reefs, and dunes form natural bulwarks, buffering against storms and reducing coastal damage. These areas are also rich in biodiversity, which helps ecosystems recover from and adapt to environmental shifts. These habitats are also crucial in trapping atmospheric carbon, aiding climate change mitigation. Economically, they're the backbone of industries like fishing and tourism, sustaining livelihoods and economies. As nature's own filtration systems, coastal zones like wetlands purify water, benefiting both people and wildlife. In the face of rising sea levels and changing climates, these habitats provide a buffer, allowing communities more time to respond to environmental changes. In essence, coastal habitat restoration safeguards shorelines and supports the health and prosperity of local communities and ecosystems. NbS has immense potential to restore coastlines and benefit the environment, communities, and organizations, but there is work to be done to realize their full potential. The ideal coastal infrastructure project is resilient to nature's most powerful forces, while also minimizing environmental damage locally and broadly through a low carbon footprint. As part of a coastal ecosystem, mangroves are found in tropical and subtropical regions around the world. They are crucial for the health of coastal ecosystems and the communities that depend on them. Due to their importance in coastal ecosystems and declining numbers, mangrove forests are protected under various international conservation laws and initiatives. Mangrove protection and restoration are vitally important for climate change adaptation due to several key factors. Mangroves act as a natural protective barrier against storm surges, high waves, and winds, effectively reducing the impact of extreme weather events on coastal communities. Their dense root systems help to stabilize shorelines, minimizing erosion and the loss of land to the sea. Mangroves are among the most carbon-rich forests in the tropics. They sequester large amounts of carbon in their biomass and underlying sediments, significantly mitigating the effects of climate change. Studies indicate that pound for pound, mangroves can sequester 4 times more carbon than rainforests can. These unique ecosystems are home to many species that are not found anywhere else. Protecting and restoring mangroves helps preserve biodiversity, which is essential for ecosystem resilience in the face of climate change. Mangroves provide nursery habitats for many fish and shellfish species. By protecting mangroves, we also support fisheries and the livelihoods of local communities that depend on them. Mangrove roots filter pollutants and stabilize sediments, leading to cleaner coastal waters, benefiting human and marine health. These ecosystems, adaptable to environmental shifts, offer robust protection against climate impacts by adapting to rising sea levels and shielding coastlines. Mangroves also support coastal communities through resources and tourism, making their conservation and restoration vital for cost-effective climate adaptation and coastal resilience. There are a few strategies that we can take for mangrove protection and restoration. Planting mangrove alone, although inexpensive, usually does not succeed due to a failure to appreciate the physiological tolerances of mangroves to tidal inundation. Another strategy is to use hydrological restoration to restore the hydrological regimes of the impaired mangrove. Another approach is to excavation or fill in areas for mangroves to grow. For mangrove to grow, the restoration site needs to have a certain slope and a very exact tidal elevation to ensure that the hydrology for the mangroves is correct. This takes a lot of preparation and work. With that money, this restoration strategy is not feasible. Only in more developed countries could this type of mangrove restoration activity be performed. Another important ecosystem is the coastal wetlands. Coastal wetlands are areas where water covers the soil or is present at or near the surface of the soil all year or for varying periods of time during the year, including during the growing season. They are transitional zones between land and water, often occurring at the edges of lakes, streams, or oceans. Coastal wetlands are incredibly diverse and dynamic ecosystems and include a variety of habitats such as marshes, estuaries, mangroves, and coral reefs. Sometimes people get confused about peatlands. Peatlands are wetlands, but not all wetlands are peatlands. A wetland is an ecosystem that is either permanently or temporarily flooded or full of water. Peatland is a type of freshwater wetland with an accumulation of partly decomposed plant matter. Specifically, the water, acidity levels, lack of oxygen, and incomplete decomposition of organic materials lead to the accumulation of organic matter over time, which is later referred to as peat once it reaches an approximate 10 to 20 centimeters level of thickness. Coastal wetlands are among the most productive ecosystems in the world and are home to a unique mix of plant and animal species, including many rare and endangered species. Coastal wetlands act as natural sponges that trap and slowly release surface water, rain, snowmelt, and floodwaters. They can store large amounts of water to protect against flooding in coastal areas. They filter and clean water by breaking down or transforming pollutants into less harmful substances. In addition, plant roots in wetlands help anchor the soil in place and absorb the energy of waves or river flow, which helps prevent erosion. Like mangroves, coastal wetlands can capture carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, storing it in plants and sediment, thus playing a role in climate regulation. Coastal wetlands are valuable for fisheries and support recreational activities and tourism, which can be significant sources of income for local communities. Given their ecological significance and the services they provide, coastal wetlands and marshes are critical to environmental health and human economies. However, they are under threat from development, pollution, and climate change, making their conservation and restoration efforts vital. One way to restore coastal wetlands is to add sediment to raise the land above the water level and allow wetland plants to colonize or to reduce erosion processes that are degrading wetland areas. Another way to restore coastal wetlands is by re-wetting the drained coastal wetlands, blocking drainage and reducing groundwater extraction. This is an effective restoration technique for brackish wetlands. A more resource-intensive technique would be transplanting vegetation from healthy marshes or specialized nurseries. Managed realignment can involve deliberate breaching or complete removal of a coastal defense, such as a dike, or the relocation of defenses further inland. Another important ecosystem is the coral reef. A coral reef is an underwater ecosystem characterized by reef-building corals. Reefs are formed of colonies of coral polyps held together by calcium carbonate. Most coral reefs are built from stony corals, whose polyps cluster in groups. Coral reefs are some of the most diverse and valuable ecosystems on Earth. They provide important ecosystem services to people and marine life. They protect coastlines from the damaging effects of wave action, and tropical storms provide habitats and shelter for many marine organisms and are the source of nitrogen and other essential nutrients for marine food chains. Coral reef assists in carbon and nitrogen fixing and helps with nutrient recycling. Despite their importance, coral reefs are at high risk from a range of threats, including climate change, overfishing, destructive fishing practices, sedimentation, pollution from land-based sources, and harmful methods of tourism. These impacts are significant because corals have a slow growth rate and are very sensitive to water conditions. The preservation and restoration of coral reefs are critical for the overall health of the marine environment and the communities that rely on them. Restoring coral reefs is a complex process that involves multiple strategies, each tailored to address specific damages or threats to the reef ecosystem. Substratum addition and enhancement, biological restoration are just a few most commonly used approaches. But it must be noted that restoration efforts are most successful when combined with broader conservation strategies to address the root causes of reef degradation, such as climate change, overfishing, and water pollution. Public education and community involvement are also crucial, as they can lead to more sustainable use of reef resources and greater support for conservation measures. We have already looked at integrated coastal management as part of the different environmental management approaches that can reduce disaster and climate impact when combined with disaster risk measures: sustainable land management, integrated water resource management, integrated coastal management, and integrated fire management. In the following slides, we will examine the remaining 4 environmental management approaches in more detail. Sustainable land management, SLM, is a holistic approach to managing land resources to meet human needs while ensuring the long-term sustainability of ecosystem services and biodiversity. SLM practices strive to integrate land, water, biodiversity, and environmental management to meet rising food and fiber demands while sustaining ecosystem functions, services, and livelihoods. An example of SLM from the Philippines, Visayas State University pioneered a unique reforestation approach known as rainforestation. This method emphasizes planting indigenous tree species to revive the natural rainforest ecosystem. Rainforestation fosters a rich diversity of plant and animal life, enhances soil quality, and offers sustainable job opportunities for the local population. This technique is adapted in nature to fortify hillsides, avert landslides, rejuvenate rivers, mitigate flood risks, and reinforce coastlines against erosion. Moreover, this initiative has garnered the backing of various private sector entities, who contribute to rainforest conservation as a facet of their commitment to corporate social responsibility. Another example from the Cambodian countryside is that villagers turn to home gardens to forge new income streams, moving away from relying solely on the uncertainties of rain-dependent farming and forestry. These gardens, nurtured with sustainable irrigation and natural fertilizers, are home to a variety of livestock and insects and yield a bounty of fruits and vegetables. Schoolchildren are also getting their hands dirty, tending to schoolyard plots where they're taught to embrace a variety of farming techniques and to incorporate a richer diversity into their meals. This hands-on education aims to bolster their ability to adapt to the shifting patterns brought on by climate change. Integrated water resource management is one of the most commonly adopted approaches to addressing climate change adaptation and disaster risk reduction while maximizing economic and social welfare. It is typically used to control flooding and ensure water preservation for drought periods. IWRM has the following advantages. Holistic approach: it considers the river basin, aquifer, or lake as the system to manage, rather than focusing on individual components, ensuring that all parts of the system are managed in relation to each other. Cross-sectoral management: IWRM involves multiple water sectors, such as agriculture, industry, and municipalities, ensuring that all needs are considered and balanced. Stakeholder involvement: it includes all stakeholders in the planning and decision-making, acknowledging that everyone's livelihoods are interconnected with water resources. Sustainable practices: IWRM promotes the sustainable use of water resources to ensure that current and future generations can enjoy the benefits of those resources. Economic efficiency: it encourages the efficient use of water resources to maximize the economic benefits derived from water. Equity: the equitable distribution of water ensures that all individuals and communities have access to sufficient, safe, acceptable, physically accessible, and affordable water for personal and domestic uses. Environmental protection: IWRM integrates the protection of water-related ecosystems to maintain the environmental services they provide. IWRM is a participatory planning and implementation process that involves recognizing the intrinsic value of water and acknowledging its finite and vulnerable nature. It requires moving away from sectoral water management, where each sector manages its resources, to an approach where cross-sectoral impacts and outcomes are recognized and balanced. Integrated fire management, IFM, is a comprehensive approach to dealing with the complex issue of wildland fire management. It combines a variety of techniques and practices that address the prevention, mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery from wildfires. IFM is aimed at reducing the negative impacts of fires while enhancing the beneficial effects that fire can have on ecosystems. Key components of integrated fire management include fire prevention, implementing measures to reduce the likelihood of fires starting, such as public education campaigns, enforcing fire bans during high-risk periods, and creating fire breaks. Mitigation, reducing the severity of fires that occur through activities such as controlled burns, also known as prescribed burns or prescribed fires, to reduce fuel loads and managing vegetation to minimize the spread and intensity of fires. Preparedness, ensuring that resources, such as trained firefighting personnel, equipment, and emergency plans, are in place before fires occur. Suppression and response, effectively and efficiently responding to fires to minimize damage to life, property, and resources. This involves the direct act of fighting fires and the coordination of resources and information. Recovery and rehabilitation, addressing the environmental and community recovery after a fire, including reforestation, erosion control, and rebuilding infrastructure. Research and monitoring, conducting studies to better understand fire behavior and effects and monitoring areas for fire danger to aid in prevention and preparedness efforts. Community involvement, engaging local communities in fire management practices, as community awareness and participation are critical for the success of IFM. Policy and collaboration, developing policies that support IFM and collaborating across jurisdictions and with various stakeholders, as fire does not adhere to administrative boundaries. Integrated fire management acknowledges that fire is a natural part of many ecosystems and can be beneficial when it occurs under the right conditions. It promotes the use of fire as a land management tool while protecting people and property from the dangers of uncontrolled wildfires. To sum up, in envisioning a world where our future is resilient and sustainable, the tapestry of possibilities is rich and varied. At the forefront of this colorful mosaic is the concept of NbS, a term that underscores the pivotal role of nature in addressing societal challenges. This is not just an option among many, it is a crucial and irreplaceable strategy. The journey towards successfully integrating NbS into our collective future is not one that adheres to a rigid, uniform approach. Instead, it celebrates diversity and flexibility, understanding that each ecosystem, from the rolling sands of deserts to the dense canopies of rainforests, requires a tailored touch. As we delve into the realm of innovation, it becomes evident that new ideas and technologies are both emerging and necessary. These innovations serve as the lifeblood of NbS, propelling us forward and ensuring that our strategies are effective and evolutionary. Yet, we must acknowledge that the path to restoration is not a sprint but a marathon. It is a commitment to a long-term vision that requires substantial resources and extensive preparation. The intricate process demands a deep understanding of the delicate balance between our world's social and ecological fabrics. Defining what constitutes an NbS is a task that must be undertaken with respect, acknowledging the unique contours of each social ecological context. These solutions should not only align with but actively support and enhance biodiversity, fostering an environment where life in all its forms can thrive. However, it's essential to discern that not all conservation measures qualify as NbS. And while NbS plays a critical role in our environmental strategies, they are companions to, not replacements for, the imperative of decarbonization. The demand for NbS is a growing wave we must create and ride. It's a demand fueled by increasing awareness and the urgency of our climate crisis. To harness this momentum, the messaging must be precise and compelling, crafted to cultivate a deep-seated understanding of NbS and its profound benefits. Now, we have reached the end of Session 3. Please feel free to go back to any part of the session to get a better understanding. When you are ready, please proceed to the quiz section as the final activity to complete the session.